everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Community Art Academy, a partnership between the Memphis Public Library and the University of Memphis's Art Education Department. Today, the students are going to bring you a lesson about watercolor landscapes, and we're going to read a book called Outside In by Deborah Underwood and Cindy Derby. Once we were part of outside, and outside was part of us. There was nothing between us. Now, sometimes even when we're outside, we're inside. We forget outside is there. So, outside reminds us, with flashes at the window and slow magic tricks. It sends the sunset and shadows inside to play. Outside sings to us with chirps and rustles and tap-taps on the roof. It beckons with smells, sun-baked, fresh, and mysterious. Outside feeds us. Sun, rain, and seeds become warm bread and berries. Outside cuddles us in clothes, once puffs of cotton. It holds us in wooden chairs, once trees. We feel outside in the warm weight of our cats and the rough fur of our dogs. Outside shows us there is a time to rest and a time to start fresh. Outside steals inside, a spider seeking shelter, a box elder bug in the bath, a tiny snail on kale. Even rivers come inside, cool water rushing, eager to return to the sea. I'm here, outside says. I miss you. Outside waits, and we answer. The end.
Hi, my name is Avery Crenshaw.
I'm Jenna Scrimshire.
And we're from the University of Memphis Art Education Program. Today we are going to be making a window into the outside world. We're going to be making a watercolor landscape and a window to frame it so it looks like you're looking out into your yard.
The materials you'll need for this lesson are your watercolor paint palette and the brush that comes with it. And you'll need watercolor paper, construction paper, a cup of water, some paper towels or tissue to use, and then scissors, a ruler, and a glue stick.
So some vocabulary words for our lesson are watercolor, which is a paint made from a water-based binder such as gum arabic and is thinned with water rather than oil, giving it a transparent color. Wet on wet is a technique in which wet paint is applied to wet paper and added to a wash of fresh paint. Wet on dry, which is when you apply wet paint onto a dry paper or wet paint onto an area of dry paint. A wash is when you have a layer of watered down paint that is somewhat transparent that is applied to your painting. Dry brush, which is a painting technique when in which a paintbrush is relatively dry but still holds paint is used on your painting.
We also have some more vocab words such as positive shape, which refers to the shapes created by objects in space, negative shape, which is the opposite of positive shape, and it refers to the shapes created by those objects. We also have background, which is the space that surrounds your painting. It's the backdrop. And last but not least, we have overlapping, which is the placement of objects over one another in order to create the illusion of depth. This is when you have a tree that sticks out in front of another tree, or a bench that's positioned in front of a tree, and things like that.
So first, what we've got to do is take our watercolor sheet that we got in our bag. We're going to measure it to a 12 by 9. So we're going to line up our ruler, and I'm going to bring it to the 9-inch mark. I'm going to make a marker, and then I'm going to turn my ruler the other way to make a straight line down the middle. Go over that, don't worry. And then we're going to cut our paper in half. So just following the line with my scissors, cutting it all the way through. Now we've got our 12 by 9-inch paper. There's so many different ways you can use your watercolors. So we have our watercolor paint here. And our watercolor paint might not look like paint yet. That's because it has to be activated by our water that we have in our cup. So I'm going to take some of my water from my cup. I'm going to mix it into my blue, just adding as much water as I feel needed. And we're gonna add that to our paper. And don't worry if the blue is too dark or too light, you can always add more water. Or you can go back and add more paint to make it darker. So just painting my sky here. This technique would be our wet on wet. So I'm taking my wet brush with my water and adding my wet paint. There's also many other techniques we can use, which is our glazing, our stippling. We can put drops of water to make different techniques, different textures into my paint. On our sky, it's nice and dry. I'm going to take my brush to clean it off. I'm going to dip it into my water and wipe it down on my paper towel. I'm just repeating this until my brush is clean. Now I'm going to take some water. I'm going to add it to my green. I'm going to get ready to paint the grass. So painting my grass, I want to think about where I want my sky to begin and end. And if I want to leave room to add a fence in, I can do that. I just paint a little line, goes across for my fence line, and we could come back once we're done painting our grass to paint a little fence. Or I could go up to my blue now that it's dry, so the water will not, or the colors won't bleed into each other. So another example I've got here is my water with my grass already done. Once I have my background, I can start adding in whatever I'd like. If I want to add trees, a finch, some bushes, flowers, a swing set. If I have a swing set at home, maybe I could think about painting my backyard or my favorite playground, or I could think about painting maybe even my grandparents' backyard or somewhere I really like to go. Like if I like to go to a lake and I want to put a lake in my yard, we can do that. So I'm gonna go into my brown and I'm gonna start painting some trees. So just adding that brown, I'm gonna bring it up for my tree branches. Kind of just making little squiggly lines because most of the sticks aren't completely straight. I like adding dimension to mine. I think I'm going to go in with some yellows and orange because I want my trees to have orange leaves. Just adding little leaves to it. When I'm done, I'm gonna let my painting dry off. You can pause your video if you'd like and take as much time as you want to paint your picture. You can let it dry fully before we go to our next step for creating our window.
Next, we're gonna make our window. So what you're gonna need to do is go ahead and get the rest of your supplies ready. You'll need your construction paper, a ruler, a pencil, scissors, and a glue stick. And then next you need to choose which color window you want out of the construction paper you have. I'm gonna choose a pink window. So first, the most important thing is to know that we're just cutting strips of paper and then gluing them together to create the window. It's gonna seem kind of tricky, but I promise we'll do it together and it's gonna be great. So first we're going to measure strips of paper that are 12 inches by about 1 inch. But if you just want to freehand it, you can do that as well. And you might want an adult to help you with the cutting in the lesson. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a ruler, put it against the edge of the paper, and we're going to make little marks at 1 inch and 2 inch and 3 inches, 4, 5, 6. And then we're gonna go to the other end of the paper and do the same thing. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to connect those two and draw a line to make it a little bit easier and give you a guideline for cutting out your strips of paper. And it's okay if you don't get it super neat. It'll all work out in the end. So once you have the lines drawn, we're just going to start cutting out your strips of paper. Okay, now that you have your strips of paper, we're ready to move on to the next step. And it's easiest to do this once your painting is dry so that you can kind of construct the window on top of the painting. That just makes it a little bit easier to get the measurements right. So the first step might not make a lot of sense at first, but we're gonna go ahead and put the edges of the windows right on the left and right side. And we're gonna make sure that the bottom edge lines up with the corner right here. And it's gonna stick up at the top, but I promise it's not gonna stay like that. We're gonna use those to fold them over and glue it to the painting. So it won't look crazy forever, I promise. So now that we have those lined up, we can take another strip of paper, and what we're gonna do is line it up at the bottom edge to create the bottom piece of your frame. So now that we know where it goes, we can start gluing it on. Just glue a little bit and stick, and then we'll move to the next piece. And always make sure that your strips of paper are lined up so that the window turns out as straight as it can be. Okay, now you've got that glued on, you've got the whole bottom frame and the edges of your window. So the next piece is going to be at the very top edge of your painting. And like I said, these pieces are gonna stick up for now, but we'll take care of them in a minute. So now that we know where that goes, we're gonna glue it down, just like the bottom, just a little dot of paint, a little dot of glue, sorry. We're gonna do that piece. You see I got mine a little crooked, so I gotta fix it. There we go. There we go. Now we just have one strip left to glue down. And it's gonna go right over the middle to create that little crisscross on your window. There you go. Now you've created a window. And the last step is to flip it over and make sure that your window is going to touch the table and your painting is face down on top of it. And if it doesn't line up perfectly on the edges, that's totally fine. So we're going to take those strips of paper at the top and fold them down, just like this. And once you have those folded, we can glue them down. So I'm just going to put a little glue. There you go. Now you have a beautiful painting with a window.
Thank you guys so much for participating with us and making your beautiful pieces of art, our favorite paintings, all of our different windows, and you can pick whatever colors you like. I hope they turn out beautiful. Goodbye.